Frank Leta was born on May 21, 1931, in Franklin, Pennsylvania, the 10th child to Francesco and Angelina Leta. The Leta family eventually totaled 11 members, and they all lived under one raucous roof at 1140 Buffalo Street in Franklin. Growing up, Frank got up to the usual hijinks of the times, but he always looked out for his family, friends, and community. This civic duty led Frank and his cousin Joe to enlist in the U.S. Air Force just as the Korean War started up. Stationed at Langley Air Force Base and later at Scott Air Force Base, Frank put his talents for tinkering with machines to good use, performing pre-flight inspections.
I pre-flighted the radios for the airplanes that the pilots used, and that's primarily what I did most of my time in the Air Force.
After his service was over, Frank married his sweetheart, Toni Pezzamenti, whom he'd met at a USO function on base. In 1952, after a honeymoon in Niagara Falls, the couple settled down in St. Louis, and Frank set out to find a career that could support a family of his own. Initially drawn to sales for its income potential, Frank took a job at City Sewing Center in downtown St. Louis. On his very first day, Frank loaded the car with 16 sewing machines, all it could fit, and hit the road. He made it as far as Sedalia before he sold them all, a remarkable feat. Another 16 were dispatched via Greyhound bus. He sold them too on his trip back. From these promising beginnings, Frank's career selling sewing machines took off. First running his own City Sewing Center store, then owning a few stores in St. Louis, then finally owning and managing 9 sewing machine stores in Evansville, Danville, St. Louis, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and West Palm Beach. By the 1960s, Frank began looking for his next big opportunity. At the same time, another upstart made a big move into American business. Honda, the Japanese automaker, built awareness in America with the "You meet the nicest people" on a Honda ad. The brand's reliable, fun machines would own half of the motorcycle market in the United States by 1964. Wanting to be part of this exciting new brand, Frank began negotiations for his own franchise.
Sewing machine business was slow in the summertime, and I was looking for something that would work well as far as sales in summer, and I saw how this little motorcycle was taking off, and so I looked into that, and of course it took me about a year to secure a franchise, but I was successful after being very aggressive and and a pain in the neck, you might say, but I was signed in 1965 as a motorcycle dealer.
By 1967, Frank left the sewing machine business altogether and started looking for ways to grow his automotive business.
My grandfather, he's got a lot of history in St. Louis, and then as soon as Honda had the automobile, he was one of the first in the Midwest to be a Honda dealer.
By 1965, he was one of the first in line for Honda automobiles, first one in the Midwest. He's always believed in having the best quality products that he sells. It was even the same way with sewing machines. He always wanted to represent those brands and be able to stand behind them. And he was a phenomenal salesperson, but he also wanted to make sure he had a product that was at that level.
In 1970, Honda introduced its first passenger car in the U.S. market, the N600 sedan. With the success of his Honda motorcycle franchise, Frank was even more persistent in pursuing a Honda car dealership. It took months of meetings, trips to Honda's U.S. headquarters, and regular contact with the Honda national sales manager, but Frank did it.
The car was supposed to come out '69, and they had a lot of problems with the laws on the books as far as type of car that would be sold in the U.S., and they didn't meet a lot of the standards at first. But then in '70, they developed a car that would meet the requirements, and in '71 they expanded the network, and when it came to the Midwest, I was the first one signed in the Midwest.
As usual, Frank's instincts and timing couldn't be better. Just as Honda entered the U.S. market with inexpensive, incredibly fuel-efficient vehicles, the United States experienced a fuel crisis, with the price of oil quadrupling in the 1970s.
They were innovative, and the product gained a lot of reputation as quality vehicle. And that took off in 1973 when the Honda Civic came out. That was the first introduction of a four-cylinder, really street-ready car that Honda developed. And it happened to be during the gas crunch back then. And so it just took off like gangbusters because they got, 45 miles a gallon on that car, and just ran like a top, So believe it or not, we sold that car for $2,200.
Hi, I'm Frank Leta here with 192.
During the early years of his Honda car dealership, Frank wanted to make a memorable impression on the public, just like Honda's advertising. He played an active role in dealership marketing, getting his family involved.
Right, Grandpa!
His daughter Paula would sing jingles about Northland Honda, and his son Carl would compose the music. Frank always liked to create ads that were both playful and distinctive, cutting through the clutter of other noise on TV. He wanted himself and his family to be the spokespeople for his company's brand, and this would be more and more evident in the coming decades.
So we'd shoot a lot of commercials where we were in a boardroom and pretty much introduced the grandkids as the chairman of the board. I'd say, right, gang? Right, Grandpa, they would say,
When my grandfather started, he had a very unique message, and he always included us. So when I was in second grade, I remember getting pulled out of school to do his commercials, and we would sit on the board. And those were really fun, but it also distinguished his brand. I'm a family owned business. I always intend to be a family owned business. I'm locally owned and operated.
My wife grew up here, of course, and it's a good place to bring up children, and it's a good city to live in. It's a good city to do business in.
A really neat thing about St. Louis is that a lot of the museums are free, which is unique to St. Louis, I think. The zoo is free. We've got the art museum, which is a great place to go. I grew up here, so I just assumed all zoos were free. But you go somewhere else and they want to charge admission.
There's just a family feel in St. Louis. And I think as an automotive group, we have done a good job really, holding together who we are as a family group, kind of mirroring that St. Louis kind of image, if you will.
They've got phenomenal schools. They've got phenomenal free educational things for kids. They've got a science center and a free zoo, all kinds of little, state parks and hiking trails.
I think St. Louis it's got a nice balance. It's a small, big city, and that I mean that it's big enough to matter, but small enough that everybody seems to know everybody.
Yeah, St. Louis, in my opinion, is a great city to bring kids up in, and great sports town, really great sports town.
Winning wasn't limited to St. Louis sports teams. The Frank Leta Auto Group expanded consistently throughout the 70s and 80s. In 1985, construction was completed on the all-new and newly rebranded Frank Leta Honda in Bridgeton at 12101 St. Charles Rock Road. The next year, Frank Leta became one of the first Acura dealers in the country. The two stores were unlike anything in St. Louis at the time, larger and more polished than any other dealerships. The ensuing years had some ups and downs, but overall, things were good. In 2006, Frank Leta Honda moved to a new, state-of-the-art facility in O'Fallon, Missouri. That same year, the company launched the Frank Leta Automotive Outlet, a used vehicle dealership at the Bridgeton location. However, shortly afterward, the Great Recession of 2008 would strike, hampering or even closing many businesses at the time. Things were different for Frank Leta. The difference makers were Frank Leta's family, who came together and helped guide the business through this tumultuous time. Frank's grandsons, Michael and Stephen, now the general managers of the dealerships, did everything possible to tighten expenses and do more with less.
As their families grew, I put the oldest grandkids into the business, and they started washing cars and working in the parts department, service department, worked their way up, and they loved the business, and they just graduated into sales and management. Of course, my grandson Joe has been our PR guy pretty much, and he's chose to stay in that field, and he likes it, and he does a very, very good job at it.
It's a family business, so I've been working here since as long as I've been working, really.
The Frank Leta Automotive Outlet, which had opened in 2006, was having trouble finding a path to success. Jim Olive, Frank's grandson-in-law, became general manager of the automotive outlet. After extensive research of similar businesses, Jim, Stephen, and Michael eventually came up with a viable business plan.
So I've known Grandpa for 20 years, probably the single biggest male influence in my life. I lost my dad when I was 18, so I met Frank when I was 20. I'm 41 now, so I would say the single greatest influence of my adult years, and I think the culmination of who I was as to where I went and who I am currently probably has a lot to do with a lot of the guidance that I've received from him.
In the years since the 2008 crash, the Frank Leta Auto Group has continued to see success, now guided by this new generation of leadership.
I've had many offers by conglomerates to buy me out, but the grandsons changed my decision on a lot of things because they like the business, and as long as their appetite is to continue in the business, there's no reason for me to sell it. It's a good vehicle for them and for all members of the family that have interest in it. So I'd rather have them develop the business and continue it than sell to some conglomerate.
The Letas believe that with success comes an obligation to share that success with others. In 2013, the Frank Leta Charitable Foundation was founded with the mission to provide safe and reliable transportation to those in need. Over 100 local nonprofits and individuals have been served by the foundation since its inception.
We've had some programs where somebody needs an automobile very badly, they can't afford it, and they may have a family with kids. And we've teamed up with some organizations over the years, such as the St. Patrick's Center. They'd refer people to us that were in need, and we would take one of our better used cars and completely renovate it and donate it to these people.
The profitability that we generate, we want to be able to give back. And so we invest in a lot of those charity partners to say, we believe in your mission. We're going to donate transportation to you to help with your outreach.
We're not doing it for the publicity. We're not doing it for recognition. We're doing it because it's the right thing to do, and we're fortunate enough that we can do it.
People that have been taking the bus to and from work that takes them a couple hours round trip just because they don't have their own vehicle, we've been able to provide them with transportation and save them a lot of time and improve the quality of life.
A deep care for customers and the community has been an essential part of the Frank Leta Auto Group since the beginning. This customer-first approach has always guided Frank's vision for the company.
Customer satisfaction is the secret. I mean, your best customer is a customer that has been told by a previous customer that they like the product and they like the people they bought it from.
Again, it's not about trying to sell one car. It's not about trying to service one car. It's about developing that relationship, having that consistency.
If we are a dealership that believes in lifetime relationship, this leader for life concept, feeling accepted is really just, do they actually care about me? Or did they care about the transaction? Did they care about getting the sale? And then they're so transactional that they're turning over. They're waiting for the next customer to come in and then the next customer. And it's so high volume and fast paced. Again, that could be a very profitable model for people. I don't discount the fact that works. I just discount that's us. That's not true to our values.
Throughout his life, family has been the most important thing to Frank Leta. As he's grown the Frank Leta Auto Group, his family has grown too. And now they're the next generation of the business. This intersection of family and business is no accident. In fact, the concept of family is essential to the business.
Again, it comes back to family. We want to build that relationship with that customer so that we see them throughout their ownership of that vehicle.
If I could have 10 more dealerships, I wouldn't do it, because I wouldn't be able to have, we wouldn't be able to call ourselves a family business. There's not enough family. Now Michael's got 6 kids, so no, I'm joking. But you just don't have enough of yourself. You spread yourself too thin, and you lose that connection. You lose the pride in the organization and the being deeply rooted in the community and being able to be as active of a member in your community as you want. I want to stay in near St. Louis because this is who we are. This is where we've been.
It's a relationship. It's like a family, extended family, is what it is.